Lyra Kale had seen the edges of the galaxy, places where stars flickered like dying candles and planets drifted in silence for centuries. But nothing had prepared her for the trail she was about to follow. Intelligence reports spoke of a human moving through the stars, performing feats that no alien mind could understand. Ships vanished, vaults were bypassed, and entire systems whispered her name with a mix of fear and awe. Humans were rare enough in this sector, almost legendary, but this one was different. The bridge of Lyra's ship, the Eclipse Hunter, hummed with activity. Crew members moved with precise efficiency, yet there was a tension in the air. Even seasoned officers who had charted asteroid storms and negotiated with warlike species whispered about the human. Lyra herself, known for her calm under fire, felt a flicker of something she couldn't name. Curiosity, excitement, maybe a trace of fear. "Commander Kale," said Doran, her tactical officer, voice clipped but tinged with unease. "We've received another report." The human was seen on Clara IX. Witnesses say she dismantled an entire security grid with what they describe as intuition. No devices, no code, just her mind. "I want eyes on her. I want to understand." A puzzle awaited her, one that no alien had yet solved, and at the heart of it was a human. The first clue arrived in the form of a transmission, scrambled and almost playful in its delivery. It was a simple line: "You're looking in the wrong place. Look inside." Doran frowned beside her. "Commander, should we trace it? It's likely a trap." The human had been seen in the outskirts of one of the smaller settlements, a place that barely registered on galactic maps. Lyra's team deployed scouts, drones that moved silently through the thin atmosphere, recording everything. The first sign of the human was subtle. A disturbance in the sand, footprints that shouldn't have been possible for someone moving at such speed. Then evidence of cleverness. A trap disarmed in a way no alien engineer could have imagined, and a hidden path marked with symbols that hinted at intelligence and humor. Lyra's pulse quickened. Every step she took toward the human revealed more about her mind. This wasn't just a human. This was a strategist, a thinker, someone who understood space, technology, and even alien behavior on a level far beyond what Lyra had encountered. She and her team scoured the settlements, asking questions, following leads, but the human was always a step ahead. When Lyra confronted villagers, they described her in vague, almost reverent terms. "She sees what others cannot. She moves like water but strikes like fire. She is a human." Lyra realized the human was teaching her a lesson without even trying. She had underestimated humans, and for the first time she felt the thrill of being outmatched. As night fell on Clara IX, the deserts cooled, and the stars reflected off the glassy surface of hidden lakes. Lyra sat outside the small settlement, scanning her instruments. She thought about the reports, the sightings, the strange clues left behind. Whoever this human was, she wasn't just surviving. She was orchestrating events in ways that changed the course of lives and maybe even entire systems. "Commander," Doran said quietly, breaking her thoughts, "we've detected something, movement. It's hard to explain." The readings were odd. No ship signatures, no known life forms, but energy spikes and small technological disturbances suggested someone or something was there. She moved closer, senses alert. Suddenly, a small figure darted across the desert, fast, precise, almost blending with the landscape. The human. Lyra felt a mixture of awe and frustration. Every instinct told her to chase, to capture, to analyze. But the human wasn't just avoiding capture, she was sending a message. Lyra knew it. The human paused, leaving a small device in the sand. It was simple, almost elegant, with a note: "Follow the logic, not the path." One that required creativity, lateral thinking, and an understanding of human reasoning. She realized that brute force or technology alone would not succeed. To catch this human, she had to think like one. That night, Lyra reflected on what she had learned. Humans were underestimated because they were unpredictable. They could combine courage, intuition, and morality in ways no alien had calculated. The human she hunted was more than clever. She was shaping the galaxy in her own way, leaving lessons for anyone sharp enough to see them. Lyra felt something stir within her, a recognition she had never admitted before. She wasn't just chasing a human, she was being tested. And in the process, she would have to change. By dawn, the settlement was quiet again. Lyra gathered her crew. "Prepare the next step," she said. "We follow the trail, but not blindly. Think creatively. Remember every detail. This human is unlike any prey we have ever known." Every member of her team respected her skill, but they had never faced a human like this one. The galaxy had seen humans as fragile, a minor species compared to alien empires, but here, one human had outwitted entire systems, teaching lessons through action and ingenuity. Lyra stood at the edge of the settlement, looking at the horizon where the first light of Clara IX touched the mountains. Somewhere out there, the human was watching, waiting, and leading them into a game they had never understood. A game of intelligence, intuition, and courage. And Lyra knew one truth: this hunt would change her forever. The sun rose, casting long shadows across the sand. Lyra felt the thrill of the chase, the awe of witnessing brilliance, and a spark of admiration she had never expected. Somewhere in the galaxy, a human was teaching her a lesson she couldn't ignore, and it was only the beginning. And so the hunt began, not with violence or anger, but with curiosity and respect. Lyra Kale would follow the trail across planets, stars, and systems. She would watch, learn, and perhaps, in time, understand. Humanity, she realized, was not to be underestimated. And this human, this singular mind, was about to show her just how extraordinary they could be. The trail of sand, code, and intuition stretched ahead. Lyra Kale, the galaxy's greatest tracker, had never felt so small and so inspired. The human was out there, and Lyra was ready to follow. The desert of Clara IX had returned to silence, but Lyra Kale felt the tension as if it were alive. The first human clue had been left like a breadcrumb, and she knew the trail would not be easy to follow. Her crew, though loyal and highly skilled, struggled with the idea that this human could outthink them at every turn. Every attempt to capture her had ended in near misses, clever escapes, and riddles that no alien mind could have designed. Lyra understood something fundamental. The human was teaching them, testing them, and challenging their assumptions about what a single human could do. They left the settlement at dawn, moving carefully across the jagged terrain toward the coordinates suggested by the small device the human had left. Each step was deliberate. The drones scanned the ground, air, and even underground caverns. The landscape was hostile, a mix of sharp rocks and hidden crevices, and yet the human had moved here with a confidence that seemed impossible. Lyra felt a flicker of admiration as she studied the terrain. Whoever this human was, she had mastered it completely, understanding the world in ways that went beyond maps and sensors. Doran, her tactical officer, looked uneasy. "Commander, I don't understand. All of our readings are normal. No life, no energy signatures, yet something has been here. It's almost alive in a way. We are not following her, we are following her thinking." Then in a narrow canyon, Lyra noticed something strange. The sand was marked with faint grooves, almost like the tracks of a small machine, but the patterns were not mechanical. They twisted, turned, and intersected in ways that suggested deliberate planning. Lyra knelt and traced them with her fingers. "She wants us to see this," she said. "Not as a trap, as a clue." "But what does it mean?" Small devices appeared at intervals, each one simple but clever. Reflective markers, small mirrors, and low-energy beacons that interacted with the natural environment. The human had left a trail that required observation, reasoning, and a willingness to see beyond the obvious. As the crew progressed, Lyra noticed the subtle ways the human had outsmarted alien technology. Sensors were bypassed without being touched. Cameras recorded nothing unusual, yet the human moved freely. Every device seemed ordinary, yet each had been altered to perform a function far beyond its design. Lyra felt a growing sense of awe. This was no ordinary human. This was someone who understood systems, beings, and space itself on a level few aliens could imagine. Night fell again, and the canyon became a maze of shadows and rock. Lyra decided to make camp, though the human's trail suggested she would not rest. Around the fire, the crew speculated, debated, and tried to predict the next move. Yet every suggestion was met with subtle doubt in Lyra's mind. Nothing they had planned could anticipate this human. It was impossible. Lyra stared into the flames, thinking about what she had learned. Humans were often underestimated, fragile in numbers and strength. But their ingenuity, creativity, and unpredictability were unmatched. This human had used simple tools, observation, and sheer intelligence to evade the galaxy's most advanced trackers. She was not reckless. She was precise, adaptive, and daring in ways that no alien could fully grasp. The following morning, the canyon opened into a plateau that overlooked a hidden valley. Lyra's sensors detected unusual energy patterns below. Small structures, almost invisible, dotted the landscape. And there in the distance, a figure moved swiftly, almost blending with the terrain. It was the human. Lyra's heart quickened. This was the first clear sighting, yet she could not approach. The human moved with purpose, leaving behind a trail of subtle clues, each one requiring thought to understand. Lyra realized that capturing her with force would be impossible. She had to anticipate, to predict, and to understand. The human paused near one of the hidden structures. Lyra watched through her binoculars as she interacted with devices, adjusting them with a touch, a gesture, a glance. Nothing violent, nothing destructive, just precise work that seemed almost like a language of its own. The human was not a threat. She was a master of her environment, shaping it to achieve goals that were unseen and profound. Lyra's crew watched in awe. "She's incredible," Doran whispered. "How can a human do this?" Suddenly the human vanished. One moment she had been there, the next gone, leaving only a small device behind. Lyra approached carefully and picked it up. The device was a cube, simple yet elegant, with symbols that shifted as if alive. A note slid out. "Patterns are guides, not paths. Observe, understand, think beyond the obvious." It was not a threat. It was an invitation. The human was not hiding. She was teaching. She was inviting Lyra to follow, not with force, but with mind and insight. The crew gathered around, studying the device and the note. Some were frustrated, others intrigued. Lyra felt a quiet excitement building. This hunt was no longer about capture. It was about understanding, learning, and perhaps seeing the galaxy in a new way through the eyes of a human. The next day, they continued the pursuit. The human's trail led to a small oasis hidden deep in the valley, where rare plants and water flowed under the alien sun. Sensors detected movement, small, deliberate, almost cautious. The human had prepared the area, using natural features and minor devices to create a path that required observation and reasoning to follow safely. Lyra realized that the human was setting a test, and they were meant to pass it through intellect, not strength. Lyra and her crew carefully advanced. Every step was guided by logic, observation, and deduction. They avoided traps that were invisible to ordinary sensors, deciphered signals embedded in the environment, and interpreted patterns that required abstract thinking. The human had not just evaded capture. She had turned the hunt into a lesson. At one point, the human appeared briefly on a ridge, looking directly at them. Her face was calm, confident, and almost playful. She made a gesture, simple but deliberate, and then vanished into the terrain. Lyra's heart raced. The human was sending a message. You are learning, but only if you observe carefully. That evening, Lyra sat alone near the edge of the valley, staring at the stars. She thought about what she had seen, the clever use of environment, the subtle manipulation of devices, and the intelligence that went beyond calculation. This human was shaping reality, not just reacting to it. And for the first time, Lyra felt admiration, not just professional curiosity, but genuine respect for the ingenuity of a single human. Doran approached quietly. "Commander, do you respect her?" he asked, almost hesitantly. Lyra nodded slowly. "More than that, I think we are witnessing something extraordinary. Humans are rare, fragile, but brilliant in ways we cannot predict. This one is showing us that even a single human can influence events across planets without violence, without domination, only through thought, observation, and courage. Watch, learn, and adapt. This is not just a hunt, this is an education." As Lyra lay beneath the alien sky, she felt the thrill of the pursuit in a way she never had before. This was more than a hunt. It was a challenge to think differently, to see beyond the obvious, and to respect the genius of a species long underestimated. Humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, philosophers, and strategists all in one. And this human, this single mind, was proving it with every subtle clue, every clever trick, and every impossible feat. Dawn came again, painting the valley in golden light. Lyra rose, determined and inspired. She would follow this human wherever the trail led, across deserts, mountains, and stars. Every puzzle she left was a testament to intelligence, ingenuity, and courage. And Lyra Kale, the galaxy's greatest tracker, had never felt so challenged and so enlightened. The human had not been captured, had not even been fully seen, yet she had left a mark on Lyra's mind. The hunt continued, but the purpose had shifted. It was no longer simply pursuit. It was understanding, learning, and witnessing the brilliance of humanity. And Lyra knew, deep in her core, that the rest of the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Lyra Kale had followed the human across deserts, canyons, and hidden valleys, yet she felt that the pursuit was only beginning. Each clue left by the human was more than a puzzle. It was a statement about intelligence, observation, and ingenuity. Lyra realized she was not merely tracking a person, she was tracking a mind. And minds like this could change the course of events in ways no alien empire had imagined. The day began with the golden light of Clara IX illuminating the hidden valley. The human had vanished once again, but traces of her passage remained. Sensors picked up subtle energy fluctuations, small disturbances in the environment, and deliberate modifications of alien technology. Lyra studied them carefully. She began to notice patterns beyond the immediate trail, patterns of thought, logic, and foresight. This human did not just react to the world. She anticipated it, shaping it with intention and intelligence. Doran approached Lyra cautiously, as if stepping into a sacred space. "Commander, I've never seen anything like this. The devices she leaves behind, they're not traps, but lessons. Every step we take feels like part of her teaching. But this one, she is using intellect, strategy, and foresight together. She is guiding us to understand, not merely to capture." Small creatures and automated devices had been subtly altered to create signals, almost like a language. The human had integrated her path into the environment itself, turning the jungle into a living puzzle. Lyra paused and looked out over the trees. "She is showing us that knowledge is power, not weapons. She is teaching us to observe and reason. Every creature, every plant, every device is part of her design, and we are learning without even knowing it." The human's method was unlike anything they had encountered. It required patience, thought, and a willingness to see beyond the obvious. Hours passed, and the trail led them to a series of caves hidden beneath massive trees. Inside, the human had created a network of tunnels, each one designed to challenge perception and logic. Lyra could see the evidence of her intellect in the arrangement of rocks, the placement of devices, and the subtle clues embedded in the walls. The tunnels were not traps, they were a test of understanding. Lyra knelt to study one of the devices, a small cube that projected light patterns across the walls. "Look," she said to her crew. "She is teaching us to see connections, to understand sequences, to reason like she does. This is more than survival. This is thought in motion." It became clear that the human's purpose was not to escape, but to guide and challenge. Lyra felt a growing respect and even admiration for the human. She was beginning to see that this pursuit was transforming her own way of thinking. As they progressed deeper into the caves, they reached a chamber with walls covered in symbols that none of Lyra's crew recognized. The symbols pulsed faintly with energy, interacting with the devices they carried. Lyra realized that the human had created a system that communicated with those who approached it, an interface of thought, logic, and creativity. She could feel the intelligence behind every pattern, every arrangement, every detail. "This is incredible," Doran said, his voice quiet. "She is leaving us her reasoning. Not her location, not her identity, but her thought process. It is like she is giving us a window into her mind." It depicted a galaxy with highlighted systems, showing areas of need, planets struggling with disease, societies facing collapse, and civilizations on the brink of war. The human had traveled to these places, intervening subtly, helping without being noticed, and leaving solutions that others could discover and follow. Lyra felt a shift inside her. This was not a criminal, not a fugitive. This was a force for change. The human had been acting across the galaxy, not for glory or profit, but to solve problems, to protect life, and to leave systems better than she had found them. Humans were often small and fragile, but this one showed that a single human mind could make a difference far beyond expectation. She turned to Doran. "She's not just clever. She is moral, brave, and creative. She is showing us that humans can be a force for good, a guiding influence in a galaxy that often chooses domination over understanding. We have been chasing the wrong idea. This human is not prey. She is a teacher. Follow the trail, but not to capture. We are here to understand, to witness, and to respect. This human is shaping the galaxy, and we are fortunate enough to see it unfold." Each one was a lesson, a demonstration of intellect, courage, and ingenuity. She thought of the civilizations the human had helped, the lives that had been saved, and the knowledge that had been shared. Lyra realized that the human's mission was more than clever tricks or clever escapes. She was weaving a network of solutions, guiding civilizations without them ever knowing it. And she was doing it in a way that inspired those who noticed her work. The galaxy had underestimated humans, and yet this human was proving that one mind, one person, could outthink empires. The following day, the trail led them out of the caves and into a dense forest, where sunlight filtered through tall trees. Sensors picked up subtle movements, small creatures, devices, and even changes in plant growth patterns. Everything had been influenced by the human, designed to guide those who observed carefully. Lyra felt a sense of wonder. The human was everywhere and nowhere, shaping the environment in ways that were elegant, intelligent, and almost poetic. Lyra led her crew carefully, following the logic embedded in the forest. Each step required attention, reasoning, and patience. The human had anticipated their moves, leaving signs and signals that required understanding rather than force. It was clear that the human wanted to be found, but only by those who were willing to think differently. At one point, Lyra paused near a clearing and noticed a device hidden beneath a tree root. It was a small projector displaying a scene from a distant planet. Lyra recognized the place from reports, an alien society struggling with disease and famine. The human had visited it, left subtle solutions, and moved on. Lyra felt a surge of admiration. This was not a human acting in isolation. She was shaping the galaxy using her mind, courage, and creativity to help others. "This is beyond anything I imagined," Doran said softly. "She is not just clever, she is extraordinary." Lyra stood at the edge of a cliff, looking out over the terrain the human had influenced. She realized that the pursuit had changed her. She was no longer just a tracker. She was a student, observing brilliance, understanding ingenuity, and witnessing courage. Humans were more than they seemed. One mind could outthink empires, save lives, and inspire change. That night, Lyra wrote notes in her log, recording every observation, every lesson, every detail of the human's actions. She understood that this hunt would redefine her understanding of intelligence, creativity, and morality. The human had transformed from prey to teacher, and Lyra was grateful for the chance to follow, learn, and witness. The human was still out there, moving through the galaxy, guiding, shaping, and teaching. And Lyra Kale, once a hunter, was now a student, following a mind that had proven the brilliance of humanity in ways that no alien could have imagined. As she looked up at the stars, she made a silent vow. She would continue to follow this human, not to capture, but to understand. The galaxy had underestimated humans, but Lyra knew the truth now. One human could outthink worlds, solve problems, and inspire change. And she was watching it unfold. The hunt had changed. It was no longer about pursuit. It was about witnessing, learning, and respecting the ingenuity, courage, and brilliance of a single human mind. The day dawned over the neutral planet of Urindor, its twin suns painting the sky in soft gold and rose. Lyra Kale had followed the human's trail for weeks, tracing clever patterns through planets, canyons, forests, and hidden valleys. She had learned more about human intelligence than she could have imagined. Every clue, every device, every subtle message had taught her patience, observation, and strategy. And now, after countless puzzles and near misses, she was approaching a meeting that could change everything. The human had requested the encounter herself, leaving a note that was clear and precise. "Meet me at the Hollow of Stars. Come with an open mind, not weapons." Crystals grew from the rock, reflecting the sunlight in patterns that seemed almost deliberate, as if guiding the way. Lyra had studied the trail and realized that the human had integrated the environment itself into the path, a final test to see if they had learned to observe and reason. Doran, ever cautious, whispered, "Commander, are you sure this is wise? We don't know her intentions." "She could be dangerous." The air was clear, filled with the faint hum of energy resonating from the crystals embedded in the cliffs. Every step seemed deliberate, as if the valley itself were alive, guiding them toward the human. Lyra's sensors picked up movement, subtle at first, then more distinct. A figure appeared on a ridge, watching them. She moved gracefully, confidently, and with a calm that contrasted the tension in Lyra's team. The human stepped forward. She was smaller than most aliens, but her presence was commanding. Her eyes were bright and intelligent, reflecting a mind that had outwitted trackers, solved impossible problems, and changed entire systems. Lyra recognized her immediately from the reports and the patterns left behind. This was Mara, the human who had challenged the galaxy's assumptions about her species. Lyra approached, keeping her voice steady. "Mara," she said, "I am Commander Lyra Kale. I have followed you across the galaxy not to capture you, but to understand. I see now that you are not just clever, you are extraordinary. You have shown us ingenuity that no alien has ever seen. The devices, the traps, the patterns, you are not just surviving. You are teaching, guiding, and shaping outcomes across entire worlds. Why? Because the galaxy is too often focused on power, domination, and control. Too many civilizations forget the value of life, of knowledge, of cooperation. I move quietly, helping where I can, leaving solutions for those who need them. It is not for glory or reward. It is for the good of those who cannot defend themselves. Humans have a long history of creativity and courage. I believe it is our responsibility to act wisely when we can. Entire civilizations have benefited from your interventions, and yet you leave no trace, no recognition. Why hide your work? That is the difference humans can make. We are small, fragile, yet capable of thinking creatively, solving problems, and inspiring change. And sometimes, one human can do what empires cannot. Instead, she found wisdom, ingenuity, and moral courage. She realized that the galaxy had underestimated humans, not because they were weak, but because their greatest power was intellect, empathy, and adaptability. Doran stepped forward, still cautious. "Commander, if she is truly helping civilizations, why risk meeting us? Why leave clues for someone to follow?" Because the galaxy needs witnesses. Those who see what is possible must understand it and share it wisely. You are trackers, observers, and leaders. You will remember what you learn here. You will see that humans are not weak or insignificant. We are capable of extraordinary things if we choose to act wisely. She had been shaping, guiding, and teaching, leaving trails that revealed the brilliance of human thought to those clever enough to observe. Lyra had followed those trails and learned lessons about patience, observation, strategy, and morality. And now, face to face, she understood the human's purpose fully. Mara led them through the valley, showing them small devices and natural systems she had influenced. A nearby river had been subtly redirected to provide water to a hidden settlement. Crystal formations amplified light and energy to signal pathways to those who needed guidance. Alien animals had been gently guided to form a living network, helping restore balance to ecosystems. Every detail reflected Mara's ingenuity, careful planning, and respect for life. "This is remarkable," Lyra said. "You've touched entire systems, not with force, but with thought, observation, and planning. Humans are underestimated, yet here you are proving that one mind can accomplish more than entire fleets or armies." Intelligence is a tool, but wisdom guides its use. Power without understanding often destroys. Humans may be small, but we think, observe, and adapt. That is our strength. It is subtle, quiet, but powerful. Instead, they found understanding, inspiration, and a lesson in human potential. She realized that Mara had not only outsmarted them, but had also changed their perception of humanity forever. Suddenly, a ripple of energy passed through the valley. Lyra's sensors detected incoming signals. An enforcement fleet had discovered Mara's activities on a distant planet and was moving to intervene. The human paused, calm but alert. Lyra felt the tension rise. They were now facing a real threat. Mara turned to Lyra. "They are coming. You must decide, follow orders or help. Their approach is predictable, but they are powerful. Alone, I could face them, but your knowledge of my methods could turn the tide. Not because of orders, but because it is the right thing. You have shown us what humans can do, and we will stand with you." Every step relied on observation, reasoning, and a precise understanding of behavior. Mara had turned a confrontation into a game of intellect, one that Lyra and her crew were now part of. As the first ships appeared on the horizon, Mara's plan unfolded flawlessly. She redirected energy flows through the valley's crystals, creating dazzling light patterns that confused sensors. Automated devices moved to strategic positions, subtly altering the fleet's approach. Lyra and her crew followed Mara's instructions, coordinating actions, predicting enemy movements, and adapting to unexpected changes. The engagement was brief but decisive. The enforcement fleet, powerful yet rigid, was outmaneuvered at every turn. Mara's use of observation, strategy, and human ingenuity turned an impossible situation into a victory. Lyra watched, amazed, as a single human mind had outthought an entire fleet. When the threat passed, Mara turned to Lyra. "You see, humans are underestimated not because we are weak, but because our strength lies in thought, courage, and adaptability. We solve problems others cannot, not by force, but by understanding and planning. Our strength is subtle, intelligent, and capable of extraordinary good." As they departed the valley, Lyra looked back at Mara, who stood calmly, a single figure against the golden light of the setting suns. She was no longer prey, no longer a mystery to be captured. She was a teacher, a guide, and a living testament to the brilliance of humanity. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries. Lyra Kale now understood why. And she would never forget the lessons learned from one human who dared to act wisely, courageously, and brilliantly in a universe that often overlooked the power of thought. The galaxy had never seen a human like Mara. Lyra Kale understood that now more than ever. After weeks of tracking, learning, and observing, Lyra was no longer a hunter. She had become a student of Mara's mind, witnessing firsthand the subtle genius of human thought. The final challenge awaited. The enforcement fleet that had pursued Mara was still in the sector, and they were relentless. Lyra and Mara had to act quickly, but force alone would not save them. Only ingenuity, strategy, and human courage could turn the impossible into triumph. Mara studied the valley where they had taken position. The landscape was complex, a combination of cliffs, forests, rivers, and crystalline formations that captured light in dazzling patterns. Every feature could be used not as a weapon, but as a tool. Mara's eyes scanned the terrain, calculating possibilities, predicting movements, and imagining solutions. Lyra watched in awe as Mara moved with calm precision, her mind solving problems faster than any machine could. "The fleet is approaching in waves," Mara said, her voice steady. "They are powerful, organized, and predictable. They rely on numbers and brute force, but they cannot anticipate creativity, lateral thinking, or subtlety. We will use the terrain, the technology, and their expectations against them." Mara had already prepared. Mirrors embedded in the crystal formations reflected sunlight into patterns that interfered with the fleet's sensors. Drones, previously disguised as wildlife, moved in precise formations to confuse and mislead the attackers. Energy pulses from subtle devices created decoys, making the fleet's systems register false positions. Lyra and her team followed Mara's instructions, coordinating their actions with careful timing. Each step had been calculated, each move anticipated. Mara's human ingenuity turned the terrain into a living weapon of thought, not destruction. The aliens in the fleet expected chaos, but what they encountered was precision, intelligence, and adaptability. Mara continued to guide them, adjusting in real time. She anticipated the fleet's tactics, predicting how they would respond to diversions and traps. Lyra watched her, realizing that Mara's brilliance was not just in technology, but in understanding behavior, both of living beings and machines. The human mind had outpaced fleets, armies, and civilizations, relying not on strength but on reasoning, observation, and courage. As the engagement unfolded, Lyra noticed subtle changes in her own thinking. She no longer approached problems as a tracker would. She thought in patterns, considered possibilities beyond the obvious, and looked for creative solutions instead of relying on force. Mara had transformed her approach to strategy, teaching without words. Every decision she made, every action she observed, became a lesson in human ingenuity. Hours passed, and the enforcement fleet struggled to adapt. Their numbers and firepower meant little against a mind that saw possibilities others could not. Mara's subtle manipulations turned obstacles into advantages, confusion into clarity, and danger into opportunity. The valley itself became a chessboard, every crystal, rock, and tree a piece in the game. And Mara, small yet brilliant, moved them all with skill unmatched in the galaxy. At one point, a section of the fleet attempted to flank them through a canyon. Mara anticipated this and activated a sequence of energy pulses and mirrored reflections that created the illusion of a barrier. The ships collided with the invisible wall, confused and disoriented. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. The human mind had created a strategy that used perception, physics, and creativity in a way no alien had ever imagined. "Watch carefully," Mara said, her tone calm. "Understanding the environment is key. Numbers alone will never win a battle if the mind is clever." It was proof that humans were underestimated not because of weakness, but because their strength lay in thought, creativity, and moral courage. The battle reached its climax when Mara directed Lyra and her crew to deploy a network of devices that altered energy flows in the valley. Small adjustments, precise timing, and careful coordination amplified the confusion in the fleet. Ships misinterpreted sensor data, leaders made mistakes, and coordination broke down. Mara's plan was working perfectly. What could have been destruction turned into a demonstration of human intellect and strategy. Lyra felt a surge of pride and respect. She had witnessed brilliance, courage, and ingenuity in ways she had never imagined. Mara was not only defending herself, she was teaching, inspiring, and proving the potential of humanity to anyone who watched carefully. The enforcement fleet, powerful and relentless, was defeated not through violence, but through intelligence, observation, and adaptability. When the last of the ships retreated, Mara turned to Lyra. "See now. Humans are underestimated because we are unpredictable. We adapt, we reason, and we think beyond immediate results. That is why one human can accomplish what entire fleets cannot. They are brilliant, creative, and capable of affecting change far beyond what any alien expects. One mind, one person, can make a difference across worlds if guided by courage, intelligence, and morality. It was a masterpiece of human thought and ingenuity. Lyra turned to Mara. I will not forget this. You have shown me what humans are truly capable of. I will make sure others see it as well. Humans are small, yes, but our impact can be great if we use our minds and hearts correctly. Now she left inspired, forever changed by the lessons Mara had imparted. Doran, still in awe, spoke quietly. Commander, she is remarkable. I've never seen intelligence and courage combined like this. Humans, they really are extraordinary. Remember what you have learned. Humans may be few, but they are capable of shaping the galaxy through ingenuity, courage, and wisdom. Lyra realized that the galaxy's perception of humanity would never be the same. One human had taught lessons that entire civilizations had failed to understand, proving that strength was not always physical, and influence did not always come from armies or empires. The journey home was quiet. Lyra and her crew reflected on what they had witnessed, recording every observation, every subtle device, every clever strategy Mara had used. They spoke less of the fleet and more of human potential, intelligence, and courage. Mara had shown them that one human could alter outcomes across systems, solve problems without force, and inspire others simply by thinking, observing, and acting wisely. When Lyra finally transmitted a report to her superiors, it was not a record of a capture, not a report of battle. It was a story of observation, ingenuity, and the brilliance of a single human. She described Mara's actions, her reasoning, her clever use of environment and technology, and her moral courage. The report ended with a simple statement: humans are not to be underestimated. Their intelligence, creativity, and adaptability can shape the galaxy in ways others cannot even imagine. Back in the hollow of stars, Mara watched the twin suns set, knowing her purpose had been achieved. She had guided, taught, and demonstrated the power of human thought without seeking recognition. The galaxy had underestimated humans, but she had shown the truth. One human could influence worlds, protect civilizations, and inspire change, not with force but with courage, intelligence, and insight. Lyra Kale, returning to her own path, understood fully. She had begun as a tracker, driven by curiosity and duty. She had faced puzzles and near-impossible challenges, but she had left transformed, enlightened, and inspired. Humanity, she realized, was not fragile. It was brilliant, unpredictable, and capable of extraordinary good. The galaxy continued on, unaware of the subtle interventions and lessons of Mara, but Lyra knew the truth. She had witnessed the impact of human ingenuity firsthand. And she would carry that knowledge, that admiration, and that inspiration wherever she went, sharing it with anyone willing to listen. In the vast expanse of stars, Mara moved silently, guiding, observing, and shaping. One human, small in number but immense in impact, had proven that the underestimated could achieve the extraordinary. And Lyra Kale, forever changed, knew that the story of humanity's unexpected strength had only just begun.